On a bright summer's day in 2015, a dramatic event unfolded that would forever alter the fates of several men from Kent, England. British law enforcement successfully thwarted an audacious plan to smuggle a deadly cache of automatic firearms from continental Europe across the English Channel and up the River Medway in Kent. At the center of this operation was a 25-year-old man named Harry Schilling. He and his associates had sourced the firearms through illegal channels in Slovakia, where previously deactivated weapons had been reactivated and restored to lethal condition. To carry out the operation, the group purchased a yacht specifically for transporting the weapons from Boulogne, France. What they didn't know was that the National Crime Agency had been monitoring them since March, tipped off by Kent police. As the yacht made its return journey to Britain, law enforcement was already in place. The subsequent seizure of weapons was one of the largest of its kind ever seen on the British mainland. In a chilling twist, it was later discovered that the same underground arms network had supplied the extremists responsible for the Charlie Hebdo massacre in Paris earlier that year. What began as a local investigation into a Kent-based crime family ultimately resulted in the arrest and conviction of 5 individuals who together received 90 years in prison. This case would become a landmark example of British law enforcement's vigilance in preventing a catastrophic influx of illegal firearms into the UK. Harry Schilling's criminal organization had long been on the radar of law enforcement. Although the gang was initially not involved in firearms trafficking, intelligence soon revealed a pivot in their activities. They were planning to import handguns into the UK. That shift triggered a deeper investigation. During a surveillance operation at a pub near the River Medway, detectives observed a gang member browsing websites for boats, behavior that raised immediate red flags. The River Medway, stretching over 70 miles from West Sussex through Kent to the Thames estuary, would become the focal point of the operation. On August 10, 2015, a motor cruiser named Alowina, captained by David Payne, sailed up the Medway from Boulogne. Unbeknownst to Payne, the NCA was watching every move. When he made an unplanned stop in Rochester en route to Cuxton, investigators became even more suspicious. Earlier, they had seen him meeting with a known gang member in a pub and searching for vessels online. This suggested that a cross-channel smuggling run, potentially from France, Belgium, or the Netherlands, was being orchestrated. From that moment, Alowina became the center of intense, round-the-clock surveillance. As activity around the gang ramped up, law enforcement prepared to move, striking a careful balance between gathering enough evidence and ensuring public safety. Surveillance teams were placed in strategic positions, including a van with a clear line of sight to the docked boat in Sandwich. When Payne sailed toward the channel, it was unclear if this was a test or the real smuggling run, but the officers had to be ready in either case. On the day of the yacht's return, Payne was alone on board. After stopping for a meal in Rochester, he returned to Alowina, now loaded with weapons. Even with the opportunity to seize the cash then and there, the NCA chose to wait, hoping to build a stronger case by tying Payne directly to Schilling and the broader criminal network. Building a legal case against Harry Schilling was no easy task. His operations were run with remarkable caution, leaving minimal evidence that could directly link him to the yacht or the firearms. Arresting Payne with the weapons would neutralize the immediate threat, but it would leave Schilling and his inner circle free to regroup and possibly attempt another smuggling run. Law enforcement decided to wait, and their patience was rewarded. A white van soon arrived alongside Alowina. Surveillance officers watched closely as individuals, wearing blue gloves to avoid leaving DNA, transferred heavy suitcases from the yacht into the van. This was the moment investigators had been anticipating. As the van began to drive off down a dirt path, 4 unmarked police vehicles suddenly surrounded it, trapping it in place. The raid was a success. Officers recovered 22 assault rifles resembling AK-47s, 9 compact automatic weapons similar to Scorpion machine pistols, and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition. But the operation wasn't over. Schilling still had no idea the weapons had been seized, and Payne was in custody. Intelligence soon indicated that Schilling and his associates were on the move. Investigators knew that if the gang discovered what had happened, they would vanish, fully aware of the decades-long prison sentences they were facing. Leveraging automatic license plate recognition technology, law enforcement tracked a vehicle connected to Schilling heading toward Orpington, specifically to a home improvement store. When police found the vehicle parked in a disabled bay, they established surveillance. Soon they saw members of the gang exiting the store with shovels and other tools, likely to be used for burying the weapons. In a swift and coordinated move, armed officers converged on the suspects in the parking lot, catching them completely off guard. By then, Payne and Christopher Owen, who had assisted in unloading the firearms, were already in custody. Schilling and his European operations manager, Michael Dufresne, were arrested at the store. So shocked was Schilling that he suffered a panic attack and required oxygen. One man remained unaccounted for. Store security footage revealed that Richard Rye, Schilling's trusted lieutenant, was still inside. Officers entered the store and found him sitting alone, using his phone, unaware of the chaos unfolding outside. His arrest followed moments later. With the suspects in custody, the investigation entered its next phase. Law enforcement carried out extensive searches of their homes, vehicles, and other properties in search of additional evidence. A breakthrough came from a car parked at the home improvement store, where officers discovered 2 mobile phones. These were not ordinary devices. They were encrypted with PGP, pretty good privacy, a form of communication popular among organized crime groups. Cracking the devices would be a significant hurdle. Michael Dufresne's phone was handed over to the Metropolitan Police in London, but their attempts to access the data failed. Schilling's phone, however, was sent to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Canadian investigators had developed advanced expertise in decrypting such phones, particularly those used in organized crime, and they proved instrumental in the effort. Their efforts paid off. Among the messages uncovered was one from Schilling that read, "We are now officially gangsters," and another from Dufresne boasting that they were proper, heavy, and armed to the teeth. These messages, combined with surveillance and physical evidence, would help seal the fate of the defendants. With the arrests at Cuxton Marina, Orpington, and a McDonald's finalized, law enforcement had brought the primary phase of the operation to a close. But the fate of the defendants would now be decided at the Old Bailey, one of the most iconic criminal courts in the world. The 7-week trial unfolded under unprecedented security. Defendants were transported to court in armed convoys, helicopters hovered overhead, and armed police patrolled the streets. The security operation cost £720,000 and marked the first time since 2008 that armed officers had been allowed inside the historic courtroom. Jurors were kept in total isolation, and a police tape barrier was placed in the public gallery to prevent any identification. The prosecution laid out a compelling case detailing how Harry Schilling led a criminal enterprise in southeast England. Together with his lieutenants, he had orchestrated the purchase of reactivated firearms from Slovakia. David Payne had been the courier, bringing the weapons into Britain by boat, with the goal of distributing them to other organized crime groups. Despite defense claims that the men had no knowledge of the weapons on board, the volume and clarity of evidence presented by the NCA were overwhelming. The judge described the conspiracy as a highly dangerous operation that could have had catastrophic consequences had it succeeded. Harry Schilling was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Michael Dufresne received 27 years. David Payne, who captained the yacht, was sentenced to 19 years, as was Richard Rye. Christopher Owen received 5 years and 4 months. The dismantling of the network marked a significant victory for British law enforcement and underscored the importance of intelligence, surveillance, and international cooperation in combating organized crime. That is it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think of today's video, and I will see you next time.